We are now a couple days removed from the NFL draft, and no better than to go over the NFL draft recap for the New York Giants, seeing what they did. They walked in with 6 picks, and they also walked out with 6 players. No trades were done, and I know a lot of you wanted us to possibly trade back or even trade back up to get a certain type of player. The Giants didn't do that. They weren't super aggressive in the NFL draft, but we're here to talk about all the picks, man, and no better way to start it off than the man himself, Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors was drafted 6 overall, and at the time that he was drafted, you had J.J. McCarthy still on the board, and mainly, if you were part of the live stream, shout out to you. But I was questioning, man, I'm like, are they going to go J.J. McCarthy or are they going to go Malik Neighbors? And heading into the draft, I spoke on it a ton of times. Malik Neighbors is a dynamic weapon, and I was hoping that the Giants were going to end up drafting him. They ended up selecting Malik Neighbors, and I'm not mad at it. Yes, I wanted my quarterback. Yes, everyone wanted Drake May. They tried to get her to get Drake May. So stop acting like they don't want a QB. They still do. That's going to be for another video. But Malik Neighbors is the pick at number 6. And this is not a consolation prize. Malik Neighbors is a dynamic, explosive weapon. When you look at the other receivers in this class, when you compare him to a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr., I think after the catch, Malik Neighbors clears him. Clears him easily. When you compare him to Rome Odunze, after the catch, clears him. Malik Neighbors' explosiveness is what sets him apart from other receivers, man. Even when he's trying to evade defenders, man, Malik Neighbors makes some guys miss, and it takes a couple people to bring him down every time he has the ball in his hands, man. He's extremely dynamic, and it reminds you of a guy that we drafted coming out of LSU, Odell Beckham. You know, the mainstream media continue to pound that. The last LSU wide receiver to be taken by the Giants was Odell, and you saw what he ended up turning out to be for the first couple of years. You would hope that Malik Neighbors is going to extend that for his whole career, possibly with the Giants. The Giants should be looking at Malik Neighbors as a dynamic weapon that will be here for the long run. We won't know what the long run will look like, and the main question is, who's going to throw in the ball? Who's going to get Malik Neighbors the ball? Malik Neighbors will be getting the ball. That's my opinion. When you look at Brian Daboll, they drafted him 6 overall for a reason. They're going to game plan to get Malik the ball no matter what it is. And when you look at who produced last year, and granted, Malik's numbers compared to last year's numbers to our wide receivers, he should clear them all by a mile. They were able to get the ball to Wan'Dale Robinson. They were able to get the ball to Darius Slayton with whatever quarterback we had at the time, whether it was DeVito, whether it was Tyrod Taylor. That's who he was working with. Malik Neighbors should be getting the ball, and whether it's a 2-yard slant, you just want to see him have the ball in his hands because he'll make guys miss. He'll turn plays into longer plays than you expected them to be. Malik Neighbors is that type of weapon for this offense. And the people that are complaining about a quarterback, I'll save it for another video, man. I'll save it for the next video. Make sure you stay tuned for that. I'll save it for the next video. But when you think about Malik Neighbors overall, man, no matter who's at quarterback, he's going to be a dynamic player. And when you look at who was on this offense that was going to be a playmaker, who did we have before selecting Malik Neighbors on the offensive side of the ball? They're like, this guy, he's going to take off next year. Now, we love Wan'Dale Robinson. We love Jalen Hyatt, but we know that they don't have that same potential that Malik Neighbors does. We've seen this guy break records at LSU, all-time receiving stats for Malik Neighbors at LSU, and LSU has produced some great wide receivers. When you look at Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, when you look at guys like Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, they produced a lot of good wide receivers, and Malik Neighbors broke all those records. Oh, on the other hand as well, Malik Neighbors can't even get a legal drink at the moment, man. He can't legally go buy alcohol. This man is 20 years old. So he's going to continue to develop. He's going to continue to blossom. And who knows what the ceiling is for him. I think the ceiling is extremely high. I don't think you can really cap off where it can be. We'll see what type of weapon he is for the Giants. And the quarterback will always be a question. But what's not a question is Malik Neighbors will produce at the next level. I'm glad the Giants made this pick, and this is the pick I was leaning towards. Now, in the second round, man, we were really wondering, were they going to settle with, potentially a defensive piece? Were they going to go get an interior offensive lineman? What were they going to do with the second round pick? They ended up selecting Tyler Nuban coming out of Minnesota, a safety coming out of Minnesota, and he was one of the top safeties on the board for a bunch of teams in this draft. Tyler Nuban, it's hard to put this on his belt already, but it's looking like he's going to be the Xavier McKinney replacement. For the last years, the safety position, we drafted a safety in the second round. We look at guys like Landon Collins, Xavier McKinney, and now Tyler Nuban. Tyler Nuban is a ball hawk DB. Now, for me, I definitely think he's not as rangy as Xavier McKinney, but to be fair, he's coming in as a rookie. You got to see what he's going to end up developing into. You definitely see the trait there. He had 13 interceptions at Minnesota, and a couple of the highlights, man. It says it on the tape. This guy makes quarterbacks. He baits them into interceptions. He just makes plays. He's a playmaker on the defensive side of the ball. Not only that, I think he's a lot more stout than Xavier McKinney, in my opinion. That's just my thoughts in the moment. I'm not trying to compare him, but for the average Giants fan that doesn't know, a couple of different safeties in the league, Xavier McKinney is going to be the comp because he is who he's replacing, literally. He definitely fits the box a little bit more, in my opinion, in terms of playing in the box, coming downhill and making some tackles, coming downhill and putting some pressure on the quarterback. Tyler Nuban is able to do that. You've seen him do it at Minnesota. You've seen him also stay on the back end and once again bait quarterbacks into making mistakes. And that's what you want to see. You want to see a playmaker on the side of the ball. Now, thinking about what the Giants are going to run, their defensive coordinator is Shane Bowen. Who was a great safety that played for Shane Bowen? Kevin Byard. He was also a ball hawk on the back end. So it's interesting to see how Tyler Nuban will be used in this defense. I guarantee that Shane Bowen definitely needed one. And we look at who he's going to play with. He's probably going to be playing alongside Jason Pinnock. Jason Pinnock will be back next year. And for me, I'm a little iffy about Dane Belton in terms of them not really having confidence in him. I'm not really too sure what his role will be. But I know Tyler Nuban coming out of Minnesota, he was a ball hawk. He was a great safety in the college last year. So I'm interested to see what he's going to do for the Giants this upcoming year. Now, the third round pick is Andrew Phillips, cornerback coming out of Kentucky. And we had to know that the Giants were going to select a cornerback, right? We had to know that. The Giants didn't adjust corner in free agency just yet. Jalen Mills did sign, but he's not really going to play corner for us. At least I don't think so. But we'll see what they end up doing with Jalen Mills. They didn't really address corner. And after losing Adoree Jackson, it looks like he's not going to be back. Andrew Phillips already has jersey number 22. So Adoree will not be back. But Andrew Phillips, I think he has the makeups to compete at the corner position and possibly start. He definitely should be a starter, especially if you're selecting him in round 3. Now, a couple people's complaints, he definitely looks to be more of a slot corner than an outside corner. In college, he played more of the slot. But the way you look at it, the way you look at our DB room, we just need guys that'll compete regardless. If it's a good slot corner, yes, I know we have Cordell Flott. They'll shift things around. Cordell Flott really hasn't panned out yet. And he was a former third-round pick as well. Andrew Phillips, I think he has the tools and the makeup to do so. He does seem a little undersized at 5'9", 5'10", but he can tackle. Like that's one of the most important things is that he can go out and tackle. And I feel like our DBs kind of have been weak when it comes to that. Not Deonte Banks, but a couple other DBs. I think they've been weak when it comes to that. So seeing Andrew Phillips come into this team, I hope he mans down the slot corner position because outside of Deonte, the corner position looks weak. At the moment, it really does. And I'm hoping for a big year out of Tay Banks. Obviously, he's going to be CB1 this upcoming year. But CB2 and CB3 is just as big as an issue as any other issue on this team. So they had to draft a corner. They draft Andrew Phillips. Those other guys available like TJ Tampa, he ends up sliding down a bit. And some people probably said, hey, I don't want to go corner third round. Let's go adjust the offensive line. It is what it is. Now, fun fact, in this NFL draft, Joe Schoen did not select a single defensive lineman or offensive lineman, which some people might find crazy, but we'll be addressing that in a second. So Andrew Phillips, potential starting slot corner. I'll take it, man. Andrew Phillips in the third round. Now, these next couple picks, we're going to be speeding through a bit. After round 4, you really start to see some players that you don't really hear about or you didn't really know about. This guy in the 4th round, I'm really hyped for. Theo Johnson coming out of Penn State, man. A tight end. We had to address the tight end position. When you look at what Darren Waller has going on right now, it's looking like he's possibly going to retire. It's leaning towards him retiring. Theo Johnson had to be drafted, and I'm glad we were able to scoop him up in the 4th round. Theo Johnson can potentially be the replacement for Darren Waller, and not about being at the tight end position. In terms of his route running ability, in terms of his speed, this guy ran a 4.5 at the 40 in the combine, man, while also being 6'6", 250. He has the makeups to be a great tight end in this league. His build, his speed, everything you could want in a tight end. Now, the blocking I feel like needs a little bit of work, and hopefully he could be more of a committed blocker. But we already know we have Daniel Bellinger, who's more than an avid blocker at the tight end position. You could potentially see, once again, Theo Johnson stepping in, being more of the receiving threat at the tight end position, while Bellinger is going to go ahead and block. But I'm definitely excited to see, the 2 tight end systems, having Bellinger and also Theo Johnson at the field at the same time, because you don't really know who's going to damage you from where. And Theo Johnson, once again, has that speed, 4'5", 6'6" frame. You just need to throw it up to him. His production in college wasn't really there, so you're not going to see too many highlights with Theo Johnson if you search him up. But what I will say is I definitely think Brian Daboll and this whole front office selected him for a reason. They valued him and coveted him. So I'm expecting to see, a big thing out of Theo Johnson, whether it's his rookie year or developing into a great player. Theo Johnson looks like the Darren Waller replacement, and if all things trends that way, I definitely think he could be. Now in the 5th round, we did go ahead and select Tyrone Tracy, the one running back we did select in this draft, and he is actually a wide receiver converted to a running back this past year. But he played well. You can't lie. Coming out of Purdue, he did put up some numbers at Purdue. And the first thing you see when you turn on the tape is that he makes guys miss and he breaks tackles. That's what you want to see out of a running back. I don't expect him to come in as an RB2. I definitely more expect him to be on special teams, kick return, punt return, and potentially, once again, he could step up and develop into a running back. But right now, we look at them selecting Eric Gray last year, and you also go out and sign Devin Singletary. I don't really see him, playing the running back spot for us this upcoming year. But potentially, in the future, or who knows, with an injury, Tyrone Tracy just does offer some insurance. And that's the running back we select in this class. We needed to address it. We lost Saquon Barkley. This isn't the Saquon Barkley replacement, but he could spell a couple of the running backs, or if there's any injuries, he will step in and make some plays. And the last pick is Darius Masau, a linebacker coming out of UCLA. Now, this guy is probably going to be on special teams and potentially back up at the linebacker position. He likes to tackle, and obviously every linebacker loves to tackle, but with him, he did lead UCLA for tackles over the past couple seasons, and also his instinctiveness, stopping the run, he's very avid when it comes to that. Now, potentially stopping the pass, there's not really too much shedding light on there, but once again, I don't really expect him to step in, and hopefully he does crack the team. The linebacker position outside of Micah McFadden and Bobby Okereke, it's kind of up for grabs. So we'll see what my man Darius does, and we'll see if the Giants cover him. If I had to grade this draft class, man, I got to give it a B. It has to be a B. When you look at what the Joe Schoen was dealing with, and when you look at the end of the day, the Giants' needs, they address those needs. A lot of people were complaining about him not drafting an offensive lineman, the offensive line. It was bad, but you have to look at what he did in free agency, and you have to look at what he did over the past couple years. He did draft some offensive line these past couple years. He did go out and sign John Runyon, Illuminor, and also some backup interior offensive linemen as well. He added some guys to this team. Now it's all about coaching them and getting them right. Evan Neal developing. Josh Azudu still developing. I'm kind of off that train, but you got to think about it. That's another 3rd round pick as well. These guys got to develop and become into their own, and I think with the right coaching, they could probably turn that around. Now, I am a little bit worried because we haven't seen this offensive line produce in a very long time. Last year is obviously one of the worst I've ever seen in my life, if not the worst I've ever seen in my life. But definitely, Joe Schoen looks like he has some faith in the guys that he signed, the guys that he's been drafting, and they really want to develop those guys up and continue to pour into it instead of adding more people through the draft. Once again, when you look at who they addressed, safety, running back, tight end, CB, wide receiver, these were all needs as well. These were all big needs. Without the offensive line, these can all crumble as well. But you definitely hope that our new offensive line coach and the new offense altogether produces a lot more than it did last year. And I think trending upwards, man. I think the offensive line is trending upwards regardless. I want you guys to let me know how you feel down in the comments, man. Give the Giants a grade in the comments, man. And also let me know your favorite pick from this NFL draft for the New York Giants. I will have more videos coming to you this week about these players that we did go ahead and draft. So make sure you stay tuned for that, man. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.